is Chris. Off the puck, he's to Edwards. Back in for Alex Burrows. It's up in the air. Now McKinnon the side. Oh! With the left glove. Are you kidding me? What a save.
Hey, Canucks Nation. Brandon Alston here, play-by-play for the Edmonton Canucks. You've got it locked on the line change. The Vancouver Canucks podcast.
What's up, Canucks Nation? Welcome back to the Line Change postgame show. If you're new to the channel, welcome to the channel. Of course, the Vancouver Canucks lose by a final score of 5-2 against the Minnesota Wild in the first time the Canucks faced their former captain Quinn Hughes since the trade back in December. Obviously, this was in Minnesota, so it wasn't a homecoming for Quinn Hughes, but it was a homecoming for the likes of Marco Rossi, Liam Ogren, and of course, Zee Bouillon. But final score was 5-2 in favor of Minnesota. I will admit I did not catch a whole lot of this game. Bits and pieces as I was at physio. Unfortunately, my physio was right at 5 o'clock when the game started. And I was at physio for probably a good hour and a half. So I managed to catch bits and pieces. I did manage to catch one of the Minnesota goals. But speaking of goals, let's go ahead and check out the goal visualizer and check out all these goals that were scored in this one. Obviously, Canucks probably scored more of their goals last night against the Colorado Avalanche. They only mustered, of course, 2 in this one. But to start off the game, the Minnesota Wild would score first to make it 1-0 at 8:32 of the first period. This would, of course, be by Matt Boldy, scoring his 39th of the season, assisted by Marcus Johansson and Joel Eriksson-Ek. Let's take a look at the visualizer here. See, puck moves around the boards up to, I believe that's P.O. Joseph right there, who tries to clear it, but it is kept in by, I believe that's Eriksson-Ek, I want to say, who's number 14. Let's redo that real quick. So initial shot, bounce off the boards. And then, yeah, Joseph isn't able to clear it. And then Boldy there just breaks it in and is able to beat Tolopilo. Obviously, Boldy, a fantastic hockey player. And, of course, he's somebody who a lot of Canuck fans think they possibly could have gotten him in the draft. Of course, if you guys remember back to that draft year in 2019, the Canucks actually picked Vasily Podkolzin just 2 picks before the Wild ended up picking Matt Boldy. So, obviously, you know, a big case of what if right there. If the Canucks had picked Boldy, imagine if we had a guy like Matt Boldy on this team. I know I am kind of, kicking myself thinking, like, what if the Canucks had managed to draft Matt Boldy instead of Vasily Podkolzin? But I digress on that. About 16 minutes into the first period, Tom Willander would score his 5th of the season, assisted by Teddy Bluger and Max Sasson. This tied up the game up at 1. Let's check this one out. As you can see here, Zee Bouillon with the puck passes over to Willander, back to Sasson, who breaks in, moves it over, does a nice little off the boards pass. I don't know if he meant to do that or if that was, on purpose. Again, I did not actually see the actual highlight of the goal just from the visualizer. It's a little difficult to see, but yeah, he bounces it off the boards, comes right to Willander, who puts it past Philip Gustafsson. Beautiful goal there by Tom Willander. Then you had Jake DeBrusk scoring his 18th of the season on the power play, because that seems to be the only way Jake DeBrusk can score is on the power play at 16:42 of the first period, assisted by Philip Hronek and Elias Pettersson. So Pettersson once again getting an assist in this one, as does Philip Hronek. Both of them continue their point streaks. And of course, this made it 2-1 for Vancouver. See here, Rossi feeds it over to Besser, back to Rossi, and over to Hronek. Over to DeBrusk, who feeds it over to Pettersson, back to Hronek. Hronek shoots it, and DeBrusk is able to tip it in. Another tip goal from Jake DeBrusk. Let's take a look at it one more time. Over to Rossi, over to Besser, back to Rossi, over to Hronek, over to DeBrusk, who quickly passes it over to Pettersson, back to Hronek, who shoots it, and DeBrusk is able to tip it in past Gustafsson. So beautiful goal there from Jake DeBrusk. And of course, that was all the goals in the first period. At the end of 1, it was 2-1 Vancouver going into the second. But 23 seconds into the second period, Matt Boldy would score his 40th of the season unassisted. This was actually the goal that I actually managed to see on television while I was at my physio appointment. So as you can see here, Boldy is able to get it past Zibuim, comes in on a breakaway. And most chances, if Boldy comes in on a breakaway, there's a very good chance it is in the back of the net. So let's take another look at this. Zibuim, Sasson passes to Buim, who's not able to control it. And Boldy is, all alone on Tolopilo. Can't really blame Tolopilo for that. Maybe sum it up as a little bit of inexperience on Buim's part, but I try not to give Buim too much heck about that because he is still a rookie and he is still learning. Of course, Kirill Kaprizov would score his 40th of the season, assisted by Matt Zuccarello at 6:08 of the second period. That put Minnesota up 3-2. Let's take a look at this one. Puck moves back to Quinn Hughes, who fires it around the boards. DPD is able to intercept it, but then Kaprizov is able to get it. And then it goes to Zuccarello, back to Kaprizov, who's able to bury it past Nikita Tolopilo. Moving into the third period, at 6:03, Ryan Hartman would score his 19th of the season, assisted by Matt Zuccarello and Quinn Hughes. So unfortunately, Quinn Hughes does get a point in this one, although yay for my fantasy, as I do still have Quinn Hughes in my fantasy league, and I am in the semifinals. So that obviously helps me out. But this, of course, made it 4-2 for Minnesota. As you can see here, back to the point. Over to Quinn Hughes, who walks right in, tries to break the ankles of Liam Ogren there. Back to Zuccarello, who is able to shoot it, and Hartman is able to tip it in past Tolopilo. Moving forward, Ryan Hartman would score his second of the game. This was into an empty net at 18:52 of the third period, assisted by Kaprizov and Matt Boldy. Let's quickly take a look at this one. See Canucks circling it back to Rossi, who shoots it and kind of gets a little bobbled there. Zuccarello, or I believe Hartman, shoots it all the way from his own end. Let's take another look at that. See here, Rossi to Hronek. Hronek back to Rossi. Rossi, I believe, tries to shoot it. It looks like it bounces off of Ratu. Then Hartman again shoots it from his own end, much similar to how Brock Besser did it in the game last night. And that was basically what sealed the deal for this one. Final score 5-2. Let's take a look at the game stats. Minnesota outshot the Canucks 39-32 in this one. Canucks were slightly better on the faceoff, 59.3%, which is good for 35 out of 59. Wild were only 24 out of 59. And that probably has a lot to do with the Wild missing a lot in their center depth. Obviously, with Rossi being traded, they were never able to really replace Rossi when they traded him in the Quinn Hughes trade. So obviously their center depth is not the greatest, but they still have a guy like Matt Boldy there. But power play, Canucks once again went 1 for 2, while the Wild went over 2. So of course, as of late, the Canucks' power play has of course been a lot better, which you love to see. Hits were 22-16 in favor of the Canucks. Block shots 20-11 in favor of Minnesota. Giveaways were 18-16 for Minnesota. Minnesota had slightly more giveaways than the Canucks did, and the Canucks had 4 takeaways to Minnesota's 2. Looking at the season series, Minnesota beat the Canucks back on November 1st by the exact same score. This was, of course, when Quinn Hughes was still a Vancouver Canuck. And then December 6th, the Canucks actually managed to beat Minnesota. This was actually shortly before the Quinn Hughes trade on December 12th. So probably about like a week before the trade. And of course, here, the final meeting between these two teams, Minnesota wins it 5-2, as we mentioned. Let's take a look at the shots on goal per period. Shots on goal were pretty even in the first period, with Minnesota outshooting the Canucks 15-14. And then, of course, there's that second period. Canucks got outshot 11-5. We know they've struggled in the second period, with, of course, yesterday being the lone exception to that. And, of course, in the third, the Canucks kind of ramped it back up a little bit, and the shots were even at 13 apiece. But Minnesota ended up outshooting them total 39-32, as we mentioned. Let's take a look at the box score now. And we will also maybe take a look at the Minnesota Wild and maybe just take a look at Quinn Hughes. But for Brock Besser, he was a -3, so no points. So Besser's point streak comes to an end. 19 minutes and 46 seconds of ice time with three shots on goal. Drew Connor was on -2, 15 minutes and 53 seconds of ice time, 2 shots. Ty Mueller, who drew into the lineup here tonight. Of course, Nils Höglander was a scratch, and so was Evander Kane, although I know Kane is dealing with I believe it's an injury. So he had 9 minutes and 55 seconds, so just under 10 minutes of ice time in his season debut. He only had 1 hit, although you don't expect much from Ty Mueller, first game in. Again, I didn't actually watch a majority of this game, so I did not see how Mueller played, but I am, pretty happy to see Mueller get into the lineup, and hopefully, this is not just a one and done for Ty Mueller. Elias Pettersson, as we mentioned, 1 assist. He was a -2, 18 minutes and 7 seconds of ice time with 1 shot, 1 block, 2 hits. Curtis Douglas, 8 minutes and 44 seconds of ice time with 1 shot, 1 block, no hits. So a bit of a down from, remember last night, he had 5 shots on goal. So not as many shots in this one, and he didn't have any hits. So it's a little bit disappointing there. But Blueger gets an assist, 16 minutes and 51 seconds of ice time with 3 shots and 3 hits. Aatu Räty, a -1, 12 minutes and 3 seconds of ice time with 1 shot and 4 hits. So Räty, once again, throwing the body around a little bit like we've seen as of late. 1 assist for Max Sasson, 13 minutes and 30 seconds of ice time with 1 hit. Then Jake DeBrusk with the power play goal, a -2, 15 minutes and 44 seconds of ice time with the 1 power play goal, as we mentioned, 5 shots on goal and 1 hit. Then you had Liam Ogren, -1, 15 minutes and 19 seconds of ice time with 1 hit. Marco Rossi, a -3 in this one, no points against his former team. Same goes with Ogren, 17 minutes and 35 seconds of ice time with 3 shots and 1 hit. Linus Karlsson, a -1, 17 minutes and 9 seconds of ice time with 3 shots and 1 hit. Looking at the defensemen, you had Tom Belander with a goal, 22 minutes and 48 seconds of ice time, 2 shots, 2 blocks. Pio Joseph, who was in the lineup again, a -1, 10 minutes and 52 seconds of ice time, so just under 11 minutes, 1 shot, 1 block, 2 hits. Philip Hronek, who had an assist, was a -3. You don't see that very often with Hronek, 26 minutes and 49 seconds of ice time with 4 shots. And then Zeev Buium in his return to Minnesota, no points, but 23 minutes, or about 23 minutes, pretty much, of ice time with 1 shot, 1 block, 3 hits. So Buium was kind of throwing the body a little bit in this one. DPD was a -2, 11 minutes and 28 seconds of ice time with 1 hit. Marcus Pettersson, a -1, 23 minutes and 9 seconds of ice time, 2 shots, 5 blocks. So a lot of blocks from Marcus Pettersson, 1 hit. And then looking at the goaltenders, of course, my boy Tolopilo, 34 saves on 38 shots. Of course, 4 goals against. He was at .895 save percentage in this one. Now let's quickly take a look at Minnesota, and in particular, Quinn Hughes. Down here at the bottom. So Quinn Hughes, despite only getting 1 assist, was a +4 in this one. 24 minutes and 48 seconds of ice time, 4 shots, 2 blocks. He did have 2 giveaways and 1 takeaway, but we don't pay too much attention to the takeaways. But yeah, 4 shots, 2 blocks, +4. A little surprising considering he only had the 1 point. But you also see a pattern here with the defensemen for Minnesota, a +1 for Middleton, +3 for Faber, a +2 for Bogosian. Only Brodin and Spurgeon were minuses for the defensemen in this one for the Minnesota Wild. Looking back up at their offense, Boldy obviously a +3 with 3 points. Just under 16 minutes for him of ice time. Eriksson Ek, a +2. Zuccarello, a +2 as well. Hartman, a +2. Hartman had 18 minutes and 30 seconds of ice time, so quite a bit of ice time for Ryan Hartman. Of course, I believe it was Zuccarello who had the most ice time for their forwards with just a little over 20 minutes. And of course, for defense, it was Quinn Hughes who had the highest ice time at just under 25 minutes there in Minnesota. So there you go. There's the box score. I do not have the fancy stats for you, but let me check it out. Let me bring up the fancy stats. Natural stat trick. Let's check out some of the fancy stats. We're in this one. Let's see here. Where are we? Are we way down at the bottom? Yeah, we are. Okay, so let's see full report. All right. So for the Canucks in the first period, high danger chances were 1 for the Canucks in this one. The Wild had 3 high danger chances in that first period. Expected goals for the Canucks in the first were 0.69, while the Wild were 0.67. In the second period, they were a 0.59. And in the third, they were 0.67 on that one. But total for the Canucks, their expected goals were 1.94. And then the Wild 4 for the Wild. Of course, high danger chances for the Wild were 16 total in the entire game, and Canucks only had 10 high danger chances in this one. Shots for percentage for the Canucks was a 42.37%, while the Wild had a 57.63%. Corsi for the Canucks was 47.17%. For the Wild, it was a 52.83%. So there you go. There's the fancy stats for you guys. Just waiting to see if G is going to pop in. I know he does have headspace in a little over an hour or so, but while I wait for G, let's check out your comments here real quick. Bobby, good to see you. Duo, I see you there. Duo's in the chat. Good to see you, Duo. Glad you were able to actually watch this one live. But I guess while we wait, we can also kind of look at something else. Let me just see here. So obviously, this morning there was some stuff coming out of Quinn Hughes, and some comments he made. Some people are basically saying, maybe some of what he said was taken out of context. I know on Canucks Conversation, Harman Dial was trying to basically say, maybe what he said was taken out of context when he basically said, he doesn't know a lot of the guys over on the Canucks, even though there's only 4 players that he didn't play with that are on the team right now. That's Rossi, Ogren, Buyam, and Douglas. All the rest of them, he played a considerable amount of time with, Pedersen, Hronek. You could even throw DPD and Tom Verlander in there as well, because they've pretty much been playing for the Canucks since the beginning of the season almost. And Quinn was, traded back in December. So personally, I did not like the comments at all. I mean, yes, like I said, you can argue that maybe they were taken out of context, trying to paint Quinn as, the bad guy. But you guys know my feelings have obviously changed about Quinn since the trade, and mainly since the Olympics. My feelings have changed towards him, even though I still have, the Quinn Hughes jersey, not there, here. You can't see this, just off screen here. But, and of course, I did that video earlier. If you guys haven't checked it out, be sure to check out my video on Quinn Hughes, where I basically ask you guys the question, is Quinn Hughes the best, not greatest, but best Canuck to ever wear the jersey? Actually, and if you guys want in the chat, let me know in the chat if you guys agree or disagree with that. Do you guys think Quinn Hughes is the best Canuck of all time? Let me know. And again, if you guys haven't checked out the video, be sure to check out that video on the channel. I thought it was a really well done video. Of course, we went over an article that basically asked the question, and we put a lot of comparisons, with, the likes of Bure, Linden, Naslund, and kind of compared him to Luongo as well. At the end of that video, I kind of, there was more of a comparison between Quinn and Luongo because of, how they left the team and, their legacies here in Vancouver. I did kind of give a little bit of the edge towards Luongo because he actually was nominated for a Hart Trophy. Quinn was not. And of course, he had a bit, obviously, better run with the Canucks, especially when it comes to playoffs. Because if you think about it, Quinn Hughes only had 2 playoff runs with the Canucks. The bubble, and then, of course, the 23-24 outlier that we all obviously talk about still, where they made it to the second round and lost to the Oilers in Game 7. So Quinn only had technically 2 playoff runs in almost 6-year span. Luongo obviously, had the Cup Finals in 2011, but you could definitely make the argument there. I obviously lean towards Luongo, as of course Luongo is still my favorite Canuck of all time. So I kind of had to lean towards Luongo there. Plus, with my personal feelings towards Hughes nowadays, may have had a little something to do with it as well. But yes, on that note, let's actually take a look at something here. Let's see if Canuck Army has anything. We're also maybe trying to get and see had to say and his whatnot. But let's take a look at this one, because this was a question that was asked. This is an article from, of course, Canucks Army. They're obviously doing a Hughes week thing with Quinn Hughes, them playing Quinn Hughes for the first time. And this article actually written by our friend Tyson Cole, who we had on the podcast last week. And of course, this is pretty interesting. This looks like it's like a roundtable of a bunch of Canucks Army writers, and this is looking pretty interesting. So let's go ahead and check it out, shall we? Let me just bring it up first for you guys. Remove that. So yeah, let's check this out. As we put the bookend on Hughes Week here at Canucks Army, we asked our staff for their thoughts on if the Vancouver Canucks should retire the former captain's number 43 in the rafters of Rogers Arena. I'm just going to go out there and say, I'm going to say no to this because I don't think he's really done enough. But that is, of course, just my personal opinion. Let me know in the chat if you guys agree or disagree with this. So let's check out the thoughts. First, we'll start out with Stéphane Roger. We've obviously broken down a lot of his articles over on Canucks Army. And Roger basically says no. It's not a particularly close call either. To qualify for jersey retirement, one has to have made a real difference. And it's hard to say Hughes has. Stan Smyl helped turn the franchise from a laughingstock into a real team. Trevor Linden and Pavel Bure oversaw their first truly competitive period of Canucks history. Marcus Naslund led them directly out of their darkest years, and the Sedins practically defined Canucks hockey for a new generation. What difference did Hughes make in the end, aside from a couple of ultimately meaningless playoff rounds and the disillusion of one of the messiest dressing rooms in memory? His ultimate greatest legacy might be the return brought in from his trade, and that combined with a 3.5-year run as the second best defender in the NHL, probably gets him in the Ring of Honor, but nowhere close to a jersey retirement. And yeah, I have to kind of agree with Stéphane Roger there. I could see him getting a Ring of Honor, but I mean, if Luongo can't even get his jersey retired, I don't see Quinn Hughes getting his jersey retired anytime soon. So we have Lachlan Urban. He goes, I'll keep this extremely simple. And as I just mentioned, if Roberto Luongo, a Hall of Famer who led the Canucks to several of the best seasons in NHL history and a Stanley Cup final berth, can't get his jersey retired, then putting Quinn Hughes in that conversation is laughable. I literally just said this. Maybe without some of the words. On a different timeline, Hughes played another 8 years as a Canuck, helping lead a renaissance and serving as a core part of a title contender right through the 2030s. But he decided to take his talents elsewhere, leaving behind a legacy as a captain for just 2 full seasons and 2 playoff series wins. Unless the team rights the wrong of Luongo's number 1 down the line, you'd better have at least 1 Stanley Cup ring to show from your time here to earn that banner, and Hughes does not. Oof. Cody Sievertson, he says, I guess Hughes wouldn't be the first player to leave the franchise unceremoniously, though it's hard to fault the guy for dipping out on a directionless franchise that duffed 2 potential springboards to contention during his tenure. The first was the post-bubble playoff season, where cost-cutting measures took priority over building on the 6 years of accidental failure, resulting in a near upset over the Vegas Golden Knights. The second, most recently, was an apparently unsolvable toxic locker room, the rift, that saw the team implode like a dying star after a massive glow-up under 1.5 seasons of Rick Tocchet. Like Bure, the guy wanted out with a year left on his deal and clearly established that Vancouver was no longer in his future. Fair enough, honestly. The guy finished his time in Vancouver as the all-time leader in points by a defenseman, a Norris winner, 5th in playoff points by a defenseman, and was the team captain. Sure, a lot of nonsense occurred under his watch. However, I'm not convinced the rift would be solved by anything other than trades. Even if Henrik Sedin or Trevor Linden were wearing the C, the guy will be a first ballot Hall of Famer by the time his career is over, with potentially a Stanley Cup ring to his name. It will probably be 20 years at this rate before another Canuck drafted defenseman comes close to eclipsing Hughes as the all-time points leader by a defenseman. Even then, I feel like it's a stretch to think they'll ever lock into a defenseman of Hughes' caliber ever again. All that said, it's too early to be talking about this. It's so frustrating to know as an observer of this team that his young prime and now playing prime were completely wasted by the franchise. It's going to be another decade of wondering what could have been while he shoots up the all-time leaderboards for Minnesota. Did you know that he's already second all-time in points per game? Kirill Kaprizov leads with 467 points in 391 games, and Hughes is second with 49 points in 42 games. Retired the jersey, I guess. He was only a franchise cornerstone that was traded for a handful of pieces who might factor into the next great Canucks team. It's probably the least they could do to reward him after effectively punishing him with some of the worst seasons of Canucks hockey to ever grace the game. But please, no more talk about this until the guy hits his mid-30s. I'm going to completely disagree with that 100%. I don't think he should get it. No, he, talking about, him being the all-time points leader by a defenseman, that is a personal accomplishment. It does nothing to the team. Does nothing for the team. That's for his own, I don't want to say ego, but it's for, it's his own personal, thing. So, and it didn't contribute to the team, winning in the end. So Ariel Lalonde says, no, hope this helps. Putting the way Hughes left town aside, which understandably left a bitter taste in people's mouths, you have to look at the criteria and precedent fairly. Pavel Bure arguably did even more to force his way out of Vancouver, but Pavel Bure had 4 postseason runs and a trip to the Stanley Cup final. Quinn Hughes had 1 actually good postseason and a juice named after him. It's not his fault that he was here at such a disastrous time, but as captain, it's fair to say he did not do enough to lead or put his foot down and say enough is enough. He agreed to the captaincy. Where was the leadership and character when it was needed? Or do we just have the juice thing to remember him by? Hughes is without question a generational defenseman and set multiple records in Vancouver, but if he goes on to reach new career heights elsewhere, what's the point in showing him the highest respect a team can give when he could not ever show that level of respect to Vancouver in return? Maybe the fan base will feel differently by the time Hughes retires, but I have a feeling this will be a sore point for decades. Jeffrey Kent, Quinn Hughes trickled every sense. His resume alone established his credibility. Franchise records for most points, most assists, and highest points per game by a defenseman cement Hughes as one of the premier players in Canucks history. That I do not disagree with, but it's the way he plays that resonates most. Shift after shift, Hughes sparks an emotional response, walking the blue line on the power play, slipping past forecheckers with ease, and creating space where none exists. He's a magician with the puck, lifting fans out of their seats in the same way Pavel Bure and Marcus Naslund once did. If there's any hesitation about number 43, one day hanging in the rafters, comes down to logic. Should the Canucks honor a player who ultimately chose to leave? Based on Hughes' legacy and the imprint he's left across the franchise record book, the answer is yes. So there's an answer for yes. Looking at Jacob Fraser, there isn't any denying the impact Quinn Hughes had on the ice during his Vancouver Canucks tenure. 432 points in 459 games as a member of the Canucks, making him 13th in franchise scoring and first among defensemen. Certainly a very good resume, especially when you tack on the fact that he was the team's captain for 2 seasons and a quarter. All that being said, although Hughes is the greatest defenseman in franchise history, perhaps the most talented player to ever wear the crest, number 43 doesn't belong in the rafters. His individual impact was undeniably great, but to be among the Sedins, Linden, Bure, and Smeel, there has to be more to it than just individual success. The furthest a team went with Hughes was Game 7 of the second round. Team success should matter in this case, and in the Hughes era, there wasn't much of it. Should Hughes be honored in the Ring of Honor? For sure, but that's as far as it should go for the team's most recent captain. And let's take a look at Quads, what Quads has to say. He goes, I don't know. The rational part of my brain that looks at Hughes' resume with the Canucks says yes, probably one day. I mean, he's the franchise leader in just about every category among defensemen and is the first Norris Trophy winner in franchise history, but it's hard to ignore the way he left town and the undeniable hurt feelings among the fan base. If I have to answer today, I likely give a begrudging yes, but ask me in 10 years, sometimes all it takes is one well-thought-out interview for a player to repair the fractured relationship between him and the fan base of his ex-team. If that doesn't happen, it's a bit hard to imagine a world where Canucks fans embrace Hughes again. Then here's Tyson Gold, the actual guy who wrote the article. Personally, I don't think so. Undoubtedly, he is the best defenseman in Canucks history, but that doesn't mean he deserves to be honored in the rafters. At the end of the day, he didn't stay long enough to warrant it, in my opinion. Yes, I understand that Pavel Bure is in the rafters, who played fewer games in a Canucks sweater than Hughes and also forced his way out, but the team had more success with Bure than they ever did with Hughes. Do I fault him for leaving to go chase winning hockey? I don't. Hockey players are competitors. They want to win. He didn't think they could win here, and honestly, he was right. But it was still a somewhat ugly ending for Hughes in Vancouver. He will forever be the first Norris Trophy winning defenseman in Canucks history and won't be giving up the franchise lead for most points by a defenseman, doing so in nearly 500 fewer games anytime soon. He likely finds himself in the Ring of Honor one day, but jersey retirements are something I believe are handed out a little bit too much as is, so I'd leave on the side of no for his jersey retirement. What do you think, Canuck fans? Do you want to see 43 in the rafters? Let us know in the comments below. So let me know in the chat. What is your guys' verdict on retiring Quinn Hughes, putting number 43 up in the rafters? Let me know in the chat. You can either say yes or no, or you can do a Y or an N in the chat. Still haven't heard from Gerald yet, but I know he's needing to get ready for Headspace in the next hour or so. I'll look at your chat for a little bit. Tyler, you're putting in the work. Thank you. I always appreciate you, Duo. Haven't missed a game in 2026. Yeah, that might be coming to an end soon, as I likely will be going back to work soon. So that run may be coming to an end here. How many hours do you need? Just under 200. Kevin K, good to see you, buddy. We were just looking at this article that basically asks the question, should Quinn Hughes have his jersey retired in Vancouver? So if you agree, you can do a Y. If you disagree, you can go with the N, or you can say yes or no. Personally, I'm on the side of no, based off of, not just the way he left, but also, how he only had 2 playoff runs for the team. I feel as though he didn't leave as big of a team, impact on the team itself. He didn't help the team win. I mean, he helped them get to obviously the second round of the playoffs. We know that, but that's pretty much it. So, despite him obviously being the franchise leader when it comes to points with defensemen, but I see that more as a personal accomplishment for him. It didn't really help the team. But yeah, those are my feelings towards it. So yeah, Kevin K, you can reply with a yes or a no or a Y or an N in the chat if you'd like. Also, I posed this question to you too as well, Kevin, because I asked this in a previous video that I did, where do you believe Quinn Hughes is the best, not greatest, but best Canuck to ever wear the jersey? You can answer that one too if you would like. You don't have to, but I will pose that to you as well. But yes, as I was saying, Duo, about less than 200 hours away. Does live stream view hours count too? Both of them count. Duo. Live streams tend to help a lot more for sure, or they tend to do a lot better when I do a live stream or a post game. So, but I believe they have to be at least a minimum 1 hour because they're watch hours, so it has to be at least a minimum 1 hour. I didn't want to say it, but he was great at the point of biting his tail. Hughes is exactly like PK Subban. That's fair. Totally fair. I mean, it's probably going to take probably difficult for a lot of fans to actually answer this, especially right around now, considering it's still kind of relatively fresh, the whole trade. Obviously, a lot of Canucks fans are probably upset with the way he left, and that might dictate their decision. I'm guilty of that myself. But also, if you really look at, the body of work that he did with the team, yes, he was a generational defenseman, probably the best defenseman the Canucks are ever going to draft, unless somebody like a Chase Reed, 10 years, 5 or 10 years from now, that if we manage to land a guy like Chase Reed or Keaton Virha, they end up surpassing him, 10 years from now, then, but, not everyone is like Quinn. So I will give him that. PK was amazing, but horrible defensively, and Hughes made Hronek look bad defensively too. That's fair to say as well. Duo says, I don't like how people keep calling Hughes quit Hughes. He left because he wanted to win. PD stays to collect a check. That's fair. It's fair. But, if you really look at the last few games that he played prior to the trade, and I think this has a big reason why people label him as that. He kind of gave up on the team. You could tell his effort was not there for the last few games that he played with the team. He looked like he kind of checked out a little bit. And that's just from my observation, So I think that is a big reason why a lot of people go with that quick Hughes. Personally, I haven't called him that. I'll admit I've come close, but I think that is a big reason why a lot of people say that about Hughes is, he kind of checked out. And yes, they say some people have been saying the same thing about Garland too. I think G actually even said it on one of our post games. After the Quinn Hughes trade, he looked like he kind of checked out because he had lost his, boy Quinn in that trade. Yes, exactly. And then had 4 goals in his first 2 games with Columbus. So yeah, a lot of people label that towards Garland too. So good, very good question, Duo. Very good question. I'm gonna say no. I didn't think I would have this channel 5 years ago. Was not a long-term plan for sure. But it was more, I would say, more on the whim when I decided to do it. Obviously, you guys know my mom had a huge part to play in it, obviously. So, but yeah, I didn't even imagine doing this 5 years ago. Not gonna lie, kind of wish I had started this 5 years ago because maybe I'd be a lot better than I am now and would have been maybe a bit of an easier process. I know things kind of change when it comes to the algorithm and whatnot. It was a lot different 5 years ago than it is now. So 2 lazy games doesn't erase all the good Quinn did in my eyes. That's fair. Fair point. I like Quinn as much as I like Bouillon or Mancini. Yeah. I've been really big on Bouillon for sure. I do think he has great potential. Now, I'm not comparing him to Quinn at all, but I do think he has potential to not necessarily eclipse Quinn, but he has potential to be a really good defenseman. People being butthurt about it is so wild to me. Is that a play on words there, Irvin? So wild to you? Should be very proud of you, bro. Think about the guests you have on, sometimes 4 to 6 guests all at once. A place for Canucks discussion, both content creators and fans. I appreciate that duo. And yes, I do know she would be very proud of me. And she would probably be one of those viewers too. Probably tuning in for every single video. She'd be probably tuning in, probably be posting in the comments, "That's my boy," because that's what she always did. Definitely, she would always do that whenever I did something, like even when I played sports. Like when I played hockey, when I played baseball, and she was at the games, she would always make a habit of pointing out, "That's my son. That's my boy." So I know she would probably do that if she was still around to see this. So I'm a mama's boy, so I feel for you. Yeah, I'm a proud mama's boy. I think I even said at her funeral, that I was a mama's boy, and I don't see it as an insult. Which I don't. I do not see it as an insult. So if someone like came up to me and were like, "Oh, you're such a mama's boy," I'd be like, "Damn right I am." There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with being a mama's boy. Do you think of Ehrhoff as a comparable for Bouillon? That's actually a pretty good comparable, Irvin. I'd have to look back at some video for Ehrhoff because I'd have to try to remember that, but that's a pretty good comparable, I would have to say, for sure, in terms of straightaway skating speed. Yeah, I'd have to look at some video to really kind of like refresh my brain on that. Oh, where is your awesome? Is this a good show? I think more people will find you, buddy. I appreciate that, Kevin. Really do appreciate that. Trevor's mom is a big reason he became a hockey fan. Yeah, I saw that tweet he did, about being able to bring his mom to practice prior to that game where he got kicked out. So I'm really glad he was able to do that for sure. That is, I wish I would have had a chance to do that because I know that would have been amazing to do. For sure, bro. She's with us in spirit. Absolutely. Absolutely. Ehrhoff is comparable for Junior. That's fair. Fair. In my terms, UPD is way more like Ehrhoff, and I remember. Very fair. Okay, let's see if there's anything else. Still got a bit of time. This is a pretty interesting one. I obviously don't want to do too many of them because I might want to do pre-recorded video for some of these. So let's check out this one. Which Canucks have fared the best post-Hughes trade? This one done by Lachlan Irvin. This one a pretty interesting one done earlier today, actually. When the Canucks traded Quinn Hughes to the Minnesota Wild, all eyes were on the players they were getting back. In the time since the trade with the Wild, the play of Zeke Bouillon, Marco Rossi, and Liam Ogren has obviously taken center stage, with all three under the microscope to recreate Hughes in the aggregate. The early returns have been pretty positive. Bouillon is taking his first steps into a top pair defender, while Rossi and Ogren have seemingly found their place in the Canucks' top six as 2/3 of the pro line. We've talked about the players acquired in the Hughes trade plenty over the last few months, but what about the rest of the team? What about all the players who started this season? Sorry, just got a text from my wife. What about all the players who started the season with high hopes and are ending it on the NHL's last place team? How did they fare under those circumstances? So first up, we have Filip Hronek. And we've been talking about it on this channel, how great Filip Hronek has been this season, and particularly since Hughes left. I think he's been kind of like the standout when it comes to everybody. Let me know what you guys think in the chat. Do you guys agree? Hronek has been the real standout since Hughes left, as he's, gotten even better since Quinn was traded. With such a big power vacuum to fill on the blue line, it'd be hard to imagine any Canuck that's had bigger shoes to fill than Filip Hronek. Surrounded by young and experienced defenders, Hronek has been forced to take on a much bigger role and has done pretty darn well with it. Absolutely. Without Hughes around to take a half a game's worth of ice time, Adam has needed more foot soldiers to eat up that gap. Hronek was already averaging over 23 minutes a night in 24-25, but this season that number's gone up to 24 minutes and 43 seconds, so almost 25 minutes. At 42 points, he's a touch behind the pace to beat his personal best, 48 points in 23-24. However, considering the difference in quality of those two Canuck teams, his numbers are still nothing to sneeze at. His role has also slightly changed with youngsters like Zeke William and Tom Verlander trying to make their mark on the score sheet. And yeah, I believe Hronek is up to, 8 goals on the season now? And I think before that, he wasn't able to get past 5. So obviously, he's got a bit of an uptick in goals this year, for sure. Hronek's stock as a locker room leader has also risen, with plenty of rumors that he's a key candidate to succeed Hughes as team captain. Whether or not the team will actually anoint a new captain next season, again, I think they should wait. They should wait. They should go at least a full season without one. There's no rush to do it. But, I do think it's between Hronek and Boeser, personally. Let me know what you guys think in the chat. Who do you guys think, Hronek or Boeser, between the two? But it's clear Hronek wants the role. Hope he likes talking to the media every day. Well, he's gotten better at it for sure. Linus Karlsson. The rise of Linus Karlsson seemingly came out of nowhere this season, putting together a 30-point season in his first full year at 26 years old. After leading the Abbey Canucks to a Calder Cup championship with 26 points in 24 playoff games, it was time for Karlsson to graduate to the NHL full-time, and he's run with that opportunity. He's working the team's middle six. This season has been enough to earn a 2-year contract extension in January. According to Hockey Stat Cards, which measures a player's advanced stats value at both ends of the ice, Karlsson's average game score of 0.32 is the 4th highest on the team and the 3rd ranked forward behind Elias Pettersson and Jake DeBrusk. So, here plus 0.1 on the offense rating, minus 5.2 on the defense rating, a minus 5.1 on the net rating. So power play goals for 12.14, goals against 53.62, expected goals against 35.54, expected goals 33.25. Karlsson's point production has dipped in the latter part of the season, but as far as finding an AHL success story this year, Karlsson has been the club's biggest. If he can carry his game over to next year, take another step forward, he'll end up as a bargain contract and a real win for Canucks development program. Let's take a look at Drew O'Connor. If there was one Canuck you expected to take on a bigger scoring role in the absence of Hughes and Kiefer Sherwood, for being honest, Drew O'Connor's name probably wasn't the highest on your list, but the DOC is in with the most goals on the team since Hughes was dealt on December 12th. And the only player to hit double digits in that span. His 17 goals are tied with Jake DeBrusk for second most on the team, only behind Brock Boeser's 21. DeBrusk now obviously up to 18 now, so O'Connor is now in third. O'Connor's 2-year extension with a 12-team modified trade clause last year drew a few raised eyebrows, but in year 1, he's found his way onto Elias Pettersson's wing and produced admirably in a top-line role. While he's not on pace to break his personal high of 33 points scored as a Pittsburgh Penguin in 23-24, like Hronek's case, that can be attributed to the difference in quality of both teams, as well as the amount of line juggling Adam Foote has done to try and find some chemistry. But O'Connor could bring in a more stable lineup with regular line mates, could help him surpass his efforts this year and get him to his first 20-goal season in the NHL down the line. So there you go. All right, let's go over to comments. Where was I? All right, let's go.
Yo.
I was just waiting for that.
Hey, bro. Sorry I'm late.
Yo.
I'm just setting. Can you hear me? Yep. Should be fine.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Sorry. I'm just setting up for Headspace. That's why. And I obviously, if you look right now, I've moved rooms. Trying a new setup right here. So I've been doing that the last, since the end of the game. Yeah, the game was. What did you think of the game?
Well, like I said, I was in and out. Physio ran a little longer than expected. So, but luckily they had the game on while I was at physio and doing my exercises, so I was able to occasionally like glance up and look at the game. I did see that Matt Boldy breakaway goal. Kind of wish I hadn't. I've seen that for obvious reasons.
Yeah.
But I wasn't really as in tune to it. By the time I got home, I think the third period was halfway over. So I just, flipped it on and had it on in the background. So, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, overall the game was okay. I mean, a lot of mishaps by. I mean, two of the goals was because of clearing, like Buem. I mean, that's it'll come with experience, and like I said, he just needs more reps, more experiences to get these out of the way right now, as opposed to in the big games. So yeah, like it's just it's a good effort, but there was like the power play is kind of back to where they are, especially at the end when they had their, what is it, 6-on-5. Like they just couldn't generate a shot. Like Besser was trying, and no one else was really moving for them to actually get open for a shot. So that's why it's frustrating when you see that. But at the same time, it is a back-to-back game, and they had to fly all the way from Denver to Mini, and yeah, it's one of those games. They finally clinched 32nd, which is great.
Yeah, at least that's a positive.
Yeah, and Minnesota, clinched their playoff spot. So at the end of the day, it's a win-win. I'm gonna try to make this quick because I need to get over to Headspace and run some stuff with Irvin, and then hopefully Begsy. I don't know. I think he's still on his way home. So, but I'm gonna keep this short and quick. The trade, even though it's one game so far, it looks like Quinn is winning right now. So Minnesota's winning the trade so far. Just strictly based on this game. I mean, based on the season itself, I think Quinn Hughes, what is it, 50 points in like 43 games with Minnesota, or 40 some odd games. And he's pretty much back to where he was. And that generational quarterback, defenseman. But in our side of things with the Canucks, I think, Ogren has been a huge surprise. He's definitely blossomed. I believe since coming over, I remember looking at the stats, and what is it, 16 points in like 40 some odd games. So not bad. And he had like 8 points with Minnesota in like 41 games. So pretty much doubled what he had when he was in Minnesota. So, and Rossi's picking up ever since he's healthy. He didn't do a lot in this game. He got under a lot of the Minnesota guys' skin, that's for sure. Some of the guys were really after him, especially during the third for some odd reason. Buem, I think it's more of his maybe jitters just coming back to Minnesota. And secondly, just lack of experience. So overall, in all, I think this game was fine. I mean, it's expected. They're not going to win 2 games against powerhouses in the Central back to back within 24 hours. It was a good start, but I think they're a bit gassed. And in the third, I think it showed it. Like, it wasn't as enthusiastic in the third, and I think it has to do with their legs. I mean, they were just playing yesterday, right? So, and Minnesota's been
Off.
off for like
they've
4 or 5 days, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, like it's just unfortunate how the schedule is made. But I think the Canucks fared well. It still looks good. I mean, just by the game yesterday itself, they're at least hope for the future. Trying to drive those breakaway goals. It's amazing. Like his PK is excellent. That's why he has these shorthanded goals, right? So all in all, I think the team's in the right direction right now, and just let them play. Like, just let them play. Didn't notice Ty Mueller that much today, but I think hearing from Foot, he liked his play, his power. We'll see what happens with him. And yeah, it's Utah on Saturday.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Also, if you really think about it, with regards to the game yesterday, keep in mind, Colorado, high altitude, so they probably had to get back to, that was probably affecting them as well. Probably, have to acclimate back to it. I know that definitely from working up at Grouse. I have to deal with that when I'm up at work. That because of how high up we are. But yeah, I wanted to ask you about this because I asked the chat a little bit earlier. Did you see those comments from Quinn earlier where he was talking about and of course a lot of people think it was kind of taken out of context a little bit, where he basically was like, I don't know a whole lot of guys over there. What was your
he changed it. He changed it post game. So Murph interviewed him post game, and I think some of it was still the same. There was some that was a little altered, but all in all, I think I don't know if I want to defend him, but at the same time, he was just practicing, or it was a morning skate. I don't know what it was when they got that soundbite, the interview. It's kind of true. Like let's put it this way. He was really good friends with Demko. Let's put it this way. At the end of the season, or sorry, just before the trade, before he went to Minnesota from Philly, because that's what happened. The last game they played at home, I think it was Buffalo. They're supposed to play against Jersey, and then he was flown out to Minnie, right? And there was a dinner that they had, I believe it was in Jersey, and that included Demko, Myers, Besser, Garland. Actually, no, Demko was not there, but Myers was. Hronek was there. So of all those people, Garland's gone, Myers is gone. Demko, let's say Demko was technically one of his buddies, is injured, which he didn't get to see, and there's Besser, and Hronek, I guess. So maybe he just wasn't thinking, or maybe he's just not as close with Hronek as we thought. Because
very true.
I thought they were, but maybe there's something in the background. But we're definitely over analyzing all this shit, right? So he said a couple months. It is true. So from October until until December, beginning of December. It was about a couple months. He said a few months in the morning one, and then after the post game, he said a couple months. So he changed that because, yeah, it was until December. December, what was it like? Last game was Buffalo.
12th.
I think it was, yeah, 11th or
December.
12th, something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
it's true. Like he's only played with some of the young guys a couple months, and the rest is what? It's just Besser and PD. I mean, PD was obviously his roommate during their rookie seasons. I don't know. I don't know if it was Hughes's rookie season or if it was PD's rookie season, because PD came before.
Like I think
PD
it was a
came
year
before
before.
Hughes, right?
Yeah, it was like a year before.
So yeah, like it's just there's obviously like we're reading too much into this.
Yeah, definitely.
And
That
just
was
let
my
it be.
thing
I
when I
mean,
first saw it.
yeah, he's gone. We don't need to overanalyze it. He's not part of the Canucks anymore. I mean, we're grateful that we got to watch. Like even watching him tonight, just breaking ankles and just the way he skates is just. We were so spoiled to have him for 6 years, and it's that same thing. Like, be happy it happened as opposed to be sad that he's gone, right?
Yeah, I saw
that's
him
one of the
breaking
things
some
I think I'll
ankles
ask.
on that Hartman goal. You could, even with the visualizer, you could see him kind of like swerving out. I was like, oh man.
Yeah, so it's a shame that he's gone, but I mean, be happy that he was here. And it's fair for him to, obviously Minnesota Wild is his team now. He's not going to be like caring like about the Canucks fans. He's going to be saying things like when Bo left for the Islanders, it's like, I can tell you that for free. That statement. It was a little bit targeted towards probably management. But it had nothing to do with the fans. And fans got pissed off. But he wasn't targeting the fans. He's just trying to state a fact that either the ownership or management was not willing to give him the money. And that's why he said, I'll tell you that for free. Right? So, let's let it.
And he did try and clarify that afterwards.
Yeah. But Quinn, Quinn is Quinn. I mean,
I remember,
1 assist and 4 plus 4 today.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember I was a little ticked off at first, and then I, obviously thought about it, and then, he obviously, clarified his comments. He's like, that wasn't directed at the fans. I was like, okay, that's I kind of overreacted to that at the time, and obviously I don't think that anymore. And yes, swerving, I did say swerving, Quinn Hughes swerving. But yeah, no, I do think people overreacted a little bit to those comments earlier. I mean, when I first saw them, yeah, I kind of saw it was like, hold up. And then I actually watched the actual like interview, like watched the full thing. And I was like, you know what? People are maybe taking that out of context. But I also don't think he was that great of a captain either.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's very hard. Like if you look up and down, the captains that we've had in the past, he's definitely not up there. Like when you have Henrik, when you have Linden, when you have Naslin, that's already top 3. Not in that order necessarily, but who else you have? Bo. Even Bo would have been better, right? So there's already 4, and then we're. I have to mention it, but it's the same tier, if not worse. Is Messier?
I was about to say.
So yeah, Messier and Quinn are probably like the same tier, but excuse me, Quinn was here for a lot longer and was such a dynamic player, and when he was here, he did work his ass off. So yeah,
definitely. There was a question
anyways,
earlier for both of us.
Yep.
From Duo, real quick. Here's your answer, Duo. There you go. Yeah, so he asked Coke or Pepsi.
I used to drink Diet Pepsi. And then maybe because of the accessibility, like wherever I go or whatnot, like I try not to buy pop. I try not to have pop at home, unlike Clay, because it's not good for you. Like it's like, this is why I'm drinking this. Like I'm drinking this because it has that carbonation. I thought about getting one of those. Gosh, I can't even remember what they're called. You know, the stuff that you can carbonate your drinks.
Yeah, I know the Soda Stream.
Soda Streams, yeah. I thought about getting that too. Because if you think about it, at the end, if you don't finish your pop and the carbonation's gone, it's just like syrup water. It's just pure syrup. So how good is that for you? So that's why I don't drink pop, but if I do, it's on an occasion, like if I eat fried foods, if I have like fried chicken, I'll always try to have some sort of pop. And then it's my usually go-to is Coke Zero or sometimes Diet Coke. I mean, the taste is very different, but yeah.
That's fair.
But if you're ever to drink pop, even though I drink Diet or Zero, I suggest drinking just the regular stuff, like regular Pepsi or regular Coke, because what they use to make it Zero, or what they use to make it Diet, is like aspartame or just artificial sugaring and all of that, and that's not good for your body. So I said, pop in general is not good for your body anyway, so don't drink too much. And this is not a jab at Clay. That's what he does. But you know, he's healthy. So as long as he's healthy, right?
Well, he did say the other night that he's
I'm gonna leave it at that.
He did say he's cut back a lot.
Yeah. How do you like my shower curtains?
That's quite that's some, looks like Canuck colors, you know, looks like blue and green there. Got the full-on Canuck color shower curtain.
Yeah. I just thought it's probably better not to have not to have the door behind me this whole time. So I was like, yeah, I went and bought a desk for my actual room. I might face it the other way, because here, I'll show you. I was gonna actually have my, like, facing up here with the TV behind me, but it didn't seem right. So that's why I switched it up over to this for now. And I have the TV on the side, which I actually use it as a double screen. So my laptop continues over to TV screen. So I wanted to face it so I could see the stuff in front of me. But yeah, I don't have time to do all of that. So we'll just keep it at this.
That's fair. But yeah, it's a little difficult to find stuff, at least with my room. As you can see, you know, the TV's behind me. And the computer is, you know, this side. I have thought about actually maybe setting up my laptop, pushing my monitor back, and then keeping the camera on the monitor, but using like the laptop, and they know, kind of like looking up. So I might look into doing that hopefully sometime soon, just as like a bit of a different setup, and then I don't have to worry about my internet issues is it never comes up with my laptop. It's only just the desktop that have the issues.
Yeah.
So I've been thinking about maybe doing that, and then.
How's the lighting for me? Like, is this okay?
Yeah, the lighting is really good.
Because I might have to. Because right now it's, yeah, that would be terrible. But there we go. That's probably more natural. Yeah. Okay. We'll leave it at that. But yeah, it's 25 after. Our show's in half an hour.
Mm-hmm.
And from the messaging, it looks like, yeah, he's gonna be home right before 10 p.m. So I'm gonna call Begsy right now and just discuss with him what we can or cannot talk more in depthly, and then we'll see you all at over at Headspace in just under half an hour.
All right, yeah, sounds good. I'll do my sponsor read and then do a little bit longer, and then I'll be done before 10. We're already an hour 11 minutes, so we've already passed that 1 hour. So
yeah,
but yeah. So go ahead.
Yeah, in terms of hours, I think we're like you're at what, 3,000? Was it 2,600? 2,000? What was it?
I'm at less than 200 away. 2,816.
Okay. We have about
as of the 28th.
So we have about 10% of
the last week. It's not even counting the last week. This is like a week old.
I just checked for us, and we're about 10% of you right now.
That's actually pretty good for how long.
Yeah, we're about
you guys
10%.
Been around. That's pretty good.
Just under a month.
Yeah. So
So
that's
hopefully,
the thing with the watch. That's the thing with the watch hours too. It's always 5 days behind what you're currently at.
Yeah.
So you always want to keep that in mind when you're looking at them. Just, a little, friendly advice for when you guys are looking at that.
For sure. Okay, great. Thank you for having me, and thank you for sort of like waiting on me while I was setting up for all this. We will see you everyone over at Headspace. If you're not coming over to Headspace, then I'll see you at post game on Saturday.
Yeah, I was able
Saturday.
to read an article, pretty good one actually, talking about Quinn. You can probably look back on it. It was basically just asking the question, should his jersey be retired? Which I think it's a little too early to really think about right now.
Here, give me the quick. You got 2 minutes. Give me the quick rundown of that. So what is the consensus of?
Basically, the article, which was written by.
Was it Quads or Tyson?
Of that, basically, it was written by. No, it was Tyson who wrote it, but it was like a little round table of Canucks Army writers.
Okay.
They basically asked like a round table of like, do you think he should have his jersey retired? And basically,
and the consensus,
there was a lot more no's than yeses. And
okay.
Well, a lot of one of them that really kind of stood out to me was Lachlan Irvin's take, and he basically reiterated the same thing that I said, which was, if Luongo's not going to get his jersey retired, I don't think Quinn should have his jersey retired. Because if you can't even put Luongo in, there's really no reason to put Hughes, but maybe Ring of Honor for sure.
Yeah, let's put a pin in that because I have stuff to say, and we'll do it at the next post game. Because I have a rebuttal on why Luongo wasn't retired. So we'll talk about that at the next stream. Thank you. And Duo, it's kind of the same because I have Irvin to fall back on. But if you want a more in-depth question, DM us at Headspace Hockey or Just come over to Headspace later. We're starting in 25 minutes. Okay. I'll see you guys soon.
All
Okay.
right.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, G. All right, there you guys go. There was G. Yeah, we'll probably about wrap it up here. Let me do my sponsor read. We'll start off with the NHL odds, of course. Let me quickly bring that up. Where is that? Yeah, definitely. After this, if you guys are done here, definitely head over to Headspace Hockey. I highly recommend doing it. Obviously, they got Trevor coming on, so I think that's going to be really good. So definitely check that out. But looking at tomorrow, there's only 2 games on tomorrow. And let's go with the Phillies and the Islanders. Excuse me. Phillies are a plus 1.5 and a minus 205 on the puck line. The Flyers are a plus 130 on the money line. And for the over, they are 5.5 at minus 125. The Islanders a minus 1.5 and a plus 170 on the puck line, a minus 155 on the money line. They're the under at 5.5 at plus 105. And of course, please remember these odds are of course subject to change. And of course, please play responsibly. On that note, this post-game show has been a presentation of DraftKings Sportsbook, which is of course an official sports betting partner of the NHL. DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NHL, is built for the fastest game on ice. With player props and live betting, every shift, every shot, every save gives you options to get in on the game with DraftKings Sportsbook. New customers bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you get $300 in bonus bets instantly. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code THPN, that's code THPN, to turn $5 into $300 in bonus bets if your bet wins. In partnership with DraftKings, the crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. In Connecticut, call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino in Kansas, wager tax pass-through may apply in Illinois, 21 plus in most states. Void in Ontario, restrictions apply. Bet must win to receive bonus bets, which will expire in 7 days. Minimum odds required. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/audio. This is a limited time offer. Copyright 2026 NHL, all rights reserved. This video has been a presentation of both DraftKings Sportsbook as well as the Hockey Podcast Network. Be sure to check out the network for your favorite podcast covering your favorite team at thehockeypodcastnetwork.com, the home of hockey podcasts, where it's every team, everywhere. All right, and I just noticed Jay's comment. Did I actually say Phillies instead of Flyers? And if I did, my bad. Completely wrong sport. I apologize for that. Wow, I don't know why I did that. That's pretty embarrassing. But I meant the Flyers, not the Phillies. Thank you for that, Jay. Thank you for telling me that, Jay. Wow. Yeah, completely different freaking sports. But I think we're going to cut it there. A little shorter than normal. But I want to say thank you to everybody who were here. Duolingo, Jay, Kevin K, Swervin Urban, and I believe I saw Bobby earlier today, earlier at the very beginning. Very good to see you guys. And I look forward to seeing you guys for the next post-game show. Obviously, if you guys want, go ahead. Like I said, go over, check out Headspace Hockey. Going to be a good show tonight with Trevor Beggs, being the mediator between both Irvin and Gerald for another edition of BS. But this has been the Line Change Postgame Show. I hope you guys enjoyed this. And of course, on your way out, if you're new, please hit that like button and subscribe for more daily Canucks content. And of course, as always, I'll catch you guys in the next postgame show.